Why is that important with the protein? Because the carbs and the sugar, it really, it's fast energy, but then you crash, right? And then,
Yes, exactly. If you eat the carbs and the sugar, it's going to turn into glucose in your blood. So you're going to, and then it's going to go in your bloodstream, and your insulin says, okay, I need to pull this in. I need to pull it in. So your insulin levels go up to pull it into the cells, and then the blood sugar drops. So fats, proteins, and carbohydrates are actually digested differently. And so if we really create that balanced plate, we can have lasting energy.
let's learn how our next guest get up, dress up, and show up on purpose. Enjoy the episode. Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I'm really thrilled. I'm elated to have Dr. Meg Mill with us today because we're going to talk about this pharmaceutical and how she has a different approach to it all. So she is a PharmD and a functional medicine expert, specialized in neurodigestion and its profound impact on overall health. It's all connected, right? And we can't overlook that. Her renowned 3R protocol, so it's regulate, repair, and rewire. And this offers a holistic approach to improving both physical and mental well-being. Now, I go without saying she's a best-selling author. She has been featured in social media, and she has a major network, leading publishing, and she's just been sharing this message worldwide. And so I'm really excited to have Dr. Meg here. With no further ado, Dr. Meg, welcome to the show.
Thank, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, and I love to hear how you, though the journey, the hero's journey, right? I love to hear your story. Tell us how this whole got started for you.
Yes, and so I kind of have a two-pronged approach to why I am where I am today. And so I, as you mentioned, graduated with a doctorate in pharmacy, and I went on to do a residency, and I worked in clinics and hospitals. And so I was working in all of these medication management. We were, doing the protocols. I knew the protocols. I knew why we're doing it. And I'm just seeing people get more and more sick on more and more medications. We weren't really making people better. It was just
Right.
like, okay. And then you start to, okay, we have 10 meds here. So now we have to manage the side effects between all the meds, and this is causing this. So now let's just put another med on. And that, that's kind of the idea and the flow that happens. And you see this, and people are like, okay, we can do some changes here to reverse things that were never being addressed. At the same time, I was young, but was having a lot of my own health issues. So I was having a lot of GI symptoms. I was having a lot of reactions of anxiety, sleep issues, so I'm trying to get answers here. I'm in the medical field. I'm, again, know the protocols. I'm jumping around to different gastroenterologists and just getting no answers.
Yeah.
And it's like, I knew there's something wrong that no, everyone's like, you're fine, you're young, you're healthy. And you're like, I feel terrible. So what's going on? And I really couldn't get it solved. So I realized that I just needed to make a change. So I started doing a lot of my own research and really into the microbiome, and a lot of this was emerging. I mean, this is like 20 years ago. So a lot of this is just was kind of emerging. You had to really look into it yourself at that point. And so I went back and I really finally was able to heal myself and really get where we're going to talk about, the connection between once your digestion's better, it's linked to your emotional health, and your anxiety's better, and all of my energy was better, and all of these things started to change in my life. And I really realized I need to go back and really change careers. So I went back and got certified in functional medicine. I opened up I have a virtual functional medicine practice where I see people all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to see these health transformations, people that feel like they haven't gotten the answers. They've been told they're fine. There's a gap in care, and we're using medication as a toolbox, like the only toolbox. And there's a time and a place for it, but so often if we actually just really look at what's going on and why it's going on, we can make huge health transformations without medication.
Yeah, and then with medication itself, we were talking offline for a little bit, and it really serves as a band-aid a lot of the times
Hmm.
because it is a profit generating machine. And so they
Yes.
really want you to kind of put a band-aid on it for 5 days, 7 days, and then come back and
Mhm.
refill your prescription because,
Mhm.
yeah, it's all about the bottom line.
Then they're in control, they're in control of, you're paying for the script. They do a lot of the educate, a lot of the CMEs are funded by drug companies, and we need them for certain purposes, and they're life-saving in certain situations, but for so many things, they're not. And you can see someone and you can like say, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, when we're looking at them functionally, and then they get, can go in and it's like, oh, here, just take this medication, and it's really not addressing anything that needs to be addressed. So it's really a great approach. And I think you were saying when we were talking that people are really starting to search for themselves. They're listening to podcasts like this. They're out there really being their own health advocates. And I really encourage that. The one thing you have to be careful of is that there's also a lot of people out there talking about a lot of different things. So it can, you can get in this like, I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to do that. And it's also, there's bio-individuality with everyone. So just because something worked for someone doesn't mean that that's your path. And I always like to throw that out there because you're sharing, but there's individuality in what we eat and what type of exercise we need to do and what supplements we need to take and all of these things. And so you can feel like, oh wait, I have to do this. And there's different approaches too that you need to figure out based on your own issues.
Yeah, and for you, you have the doctorate and you have the research background and you understand this to the T.
Hmm.
And so for the people
Yes.
who don't have such background, let's walk us through, if you don't mind, how you healed yourself personally,
Sure,
having
sure.
gone to everyone else and they couldn't
Hmm.
figure out what the issue was.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I do a little bit differently in my work than a lot of other functional practitioners is I incorporate nervous system work within the testing. So we're going to look at the testing. So one of the things that we need to do is look at what's going on in your body. So we talk about it like root cause medicine, but it's really like what are the root causes? What are all of the things, imbalances that are going on? We look at the microbiome. So one of the big things is for me was that I had a lot of ear infections
Mm.
as a child. And then I actually went to Europe as in college, and when you're putting all these pieces together, a lot of my issues started when I came back, and I was really sick right when I got home. You just think, oh, I'm sick, I got this, virus, and you move on, and then you're like, oh wait, 6 months later, a lot of symptoms started that I didn't ever even connect. But I also had a lot of antibiotics as a child, so I had an imbalanced microbiome. So I needed to rebalance that. So we need to make sure that we don't have any invaders. We don't have things like H. pylori, parasites, candida, things that are coming in. We need to make sure that we have a good, healthy microbial population so that we have the right bacteria, that we need to make sure that we don't have overgrowth, that our digestion as well. So there is this gut-brain connection where you need to be able to digest your food. You need to have motility. You need to send the right nerve, like messages up the vagus nerve. So when you think about the vagus nerve connects your gut and your brain, and so it's a bidirectional highway. So there's messages going down to the gut and they're going up to the brain. So we need to make sure that we're getting both of those messages. So when we're working on the nervous system work, we're also sending messages to stay in that parasympathetic nervous system to digest optimally. And that's why when you go into a doctor and you have IBS, one of the most frustrating things is you'll go in and you'll say, I have stomach pain, I have bloating, I have gas, I have constipation, and they'll say, here's, some Zoloft or some Prozac or something, which is an SSRI. So they're giving you an antidepressant.
Mm.
They're doing that because of the gut-brain connection. But you really need to just work on that nervous system regulation, the vagal nerve work, the retraining your thoughts rather than taking a medication that really isn't helping the underlying issue.
Which could add on to your stress level, mess you up
Hmm.
emotionally, right? And now you
Hmm.
you're not only backed up and clogged up, but now you're not sleeping. You're
Yes.
anxious, right? And so you're fidgety, and so it just adds on to the whole problem, and you need another medication for that.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And so yeah,
So,
the cycle just kind of goes on and
mhm.
on. So let's talk about the emotional and stress, as we're talking about the neural sympathetic
Hmm.
system, what
Yeah.
that has on our overall gut health.
So you have to be able to digest and absorb any food you eat to really get the benefits. So sometimes people will say like, let's just give an example of say like, oh, I have low energy, but I'm trying to eat a really healthy diet. Maybe you're taking some supplements, but if you don't digest and absorb what you're actually eating, you're not getting the full benefit. So we have to make sure that we're able to do that. And our body gives our mind, our stress, our nervous system gives us signals in digestion. So we want to live in a parasympathetic nervous system. That's where we rest and digest. We want to stay there most of the time. So we want to go into fight or flight when we have stress, when a lion's chasing us, we jump into that and then we come back. Most of our life in our society now, a lot of it's spent in that fight or flight because we're like, next thing, what do I have to do? I'm always stressed. And so we're living in this place. Well, when that happens, we're having our blood go to our limbs. We're telling our body not to digest, basically, to prioritize running. So we need to bring our body back into that parasympathetic nervous system. When we are in that, it's saying to our stomach, release stomach acid, and the stomach acid helps break down proteins in your food. It's saying release digestive enzymes so that you can break down the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates. It's saying, hey, gallbladder, release bile to break down fat. So all of these things are actually regulated by your autonomic nervous system. So we need to really be able to focus on nervous system regulation in order to digest properly, even motility. So, you've probably heard the term like 95 or 90% of your serotonin is actually made in the gut. And a lot of that is for motility, but we need to be able to actually have the food go through us so we can eliminate it. So there's all these factors that go along with it. And I think one of the things that people don't realize that they have that's really powerful is your breath. So if you sit down and you take a deep breath, maybe for 1 minute before you eat, just sit down and do some belly breathing, really inhale through your belly, bring it up through your chest, exhale, and just any kind of breath work that you think of, just sit there and calm and ground your body. You're actually improving your digestion. It's surprising we don't think of it, but it's a way to actually free, easy, simple to start.
Yeah, and it says we don't think about it because you're saying we're not absorbing our food, and we're like, well, it goes in, it should be absorbed, but it's not always the case with something that should be so automatic. It doesn't happen that way. Tell us about the three protocols, the 3R protocols that you have put in place.
Yeah, so the first one we were kind of started to talk about. So we want to make sure that we're regulating. We want to make sure that we can regulate our nervous system, that we can stay in that parasympathetic nervous system and regulate our body. And that can go as deep as regulating your hormones. We need to regulate our immune system. We need to get our body back into balance. So when these things start to happen in our life, when stress happens, when maybe viral infections happen, maybe you live in mold, maybe you're, have toxins around you, we need to bring our body back into balance and start to regulate. And then we need to repair. So we need to look at, we were talking about the microbiome. We need to repair what is going on, what's been going on in your system. Things that are like, let's say, broken or off balance, and repair that. We need to heal the gut lining and make sure that when you get this intestinal permeability or leaky gut, things that are off in your microbiome that are supposed to stay in the gut actually end up in systemic absorption and we get a full body response. So we need to make sure that we go through repair. And then I also put rewire. So we need to often rewire our mind and focus on neuroplasticity. So when we have let's say you've been having symptoms for a long time, we start to get in this system where your body actually starts responding to things like it's in danger. So I use a little example here of if you smell a rose and it smells so nice and you're like, okay, that's a good feeling, and you feel good. And then the next time you smell a rose, someone says, okay, you have to touch a hot stove. And every time now you to smell the rose, you have to touch the stove. And it feels bad. Your body's like scared. We can get in this cell danger response. There's something going on. And then someone takes the stove away and it's like now you smell the rose again. Your body's still going to react like, oh no, this is not a good thing. It's going to react in that, okay, I'm afraid. Well, you've been dealing with a lot of these things for a long time. And so start to get in these patterns, and you start to get in these brain patterns where we're expecting certain things to happen. So often then we need to work on changing your neural pathways and your patterns to be able to tell your body, this is actually safe. You are safe in this space. You don't have to have this reaction. Maybe people start to get food fear, like you can actually eat this food. You can feel, and a lot of people have a underlying trauma. Even we get this misconception on trauma and think like it has to be these major events, but all of the buildup of different things that happen in your life are traumatic. So and that can actually affect your physical body. So we need to work on those things in order to bring your neural pathways back in so that we can calm everything down in your body too.
Yeah, and the example I'm thinking of as you were talking is the cortisol. Adrenal
Hmm.
fatigue is real because
Yes.
you're in that fight or flight state constantly because of constant
Hmm.
stress. Be it at work, family. I mean, it's the daily things that add so much stress into your life. And so your brain is now wired to expect to be on fight or flight, and you try to self-medicate with alcohol and all these things that actually makes it a lot worse.
Hmm.
And so
Exactly.
the
Just going,
rewiring piece, go ahead.
yeah, just going back. It's pulling it back instead of trying to, yeah, self-medicate. You're pulling back to like what's going on. When we look at what's going on and why it's going on in the body, we can reverse the patterns.
Yeah, rewiring the brain altogether to get it back to its
Hmm.
natural state. I love that aspect. And go ahead and tell us about some of the daily habits that people can start to incorporate in their
Hmm.
life to begin this process if they are searching and looking to heal the gut. Because this can lead to obesity
Hmm.
very easily,
Yes.
which is a
Hmm.
big
It
problem
can.
here in the States.
Yes. So, we want to go back to the basics. So, first of all, how much fiber are you eating? So, a lot of the microbes need to be fed by fiber. And one of the things that's a little bit hard with fiber is that if you put it in too fast, you actually can feel more bloating, more cramping, things like that. So people say like, oh, I don't do well with fiber, but we actually need to increase it slowly. So you want to just like, okay, add a little bit more and do that slowly. So, feeding with fiber, eating a rainbow, these are just like simple things that you can, eating a rainbow, looking at the variety. What kind of colors do you get? Do you eat the same foods every day? Do you have more of a bland, pale diet? You want to increase the color, increase the variety of your foods, not, and then taking out processed foods, high sugar processed foods, those are inflammatory. So we're saying your immune system's like, I don't understand this food. What is this and why am I eating it? And you want to eat like whole foods that have whole ingredients so that we're feeding the body every time, and this is like a little bit of a setback, but every time you eat something, you're either fueling or hurting your body. I mean, and we disassociate from our food. We don't think of it that way. We think of it flavor or experience, but you are really making a choice every time you put something in your mouth. So can you even just take a step back when you're eating something and like, what kind of choice is this? And sometimes you're making the choice of like, I just want that flavor. I want that experience. But if you can increase even, 50, 75% of those choices to be like, I'm going to make this choice. I'm going to eat this because of the value it's giving me, then you're in the right direction. So we want to, really look at ingredients versus processed foods as another thing that you can start to do. Another thing, is, like I said, just taking that routine of eating and slow down, chew your food, take deep breaths, and eat in that calm state. That can really help improve digestion a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes like in my world, we need to go in and we need to do a stool test and we look at the microbiome and we rebalance everything. And sometimes, you might be in a place that just needs to be done. If you have a parasite, you can't necessarily eat your way out of that. So sometimes we need to go in and do the things that we need to do in order to rebalance, but there's things we can do every day to start on that journey.
Yeah, I like that you do the stool test to actually find out what's going on because it is tailored, which is what we're
Yeah.
lacking with the pharmaceutical market is that we're not tailoring it to what the patient's currently taking and what is going on overall. It's just here's a generic prescription that works for
Hmm.
other people that will work for you. I find it with the fiber story. It's very true, and I think it's a way of it's for our body. protecting ourselves, because our body system, the system is pretty smart. It's
Hmm.
designed to kind of work efficiently. And so I had one of those experiences where I had too much fiber all at once. Ate one of my favorite meal. It's bulgur, and it's wheat, very high in fiber. And I was literally sick. I thought I had food poisoning, because again, it was too much, too fast. But I instinctually knew what I took, what I ingested, because I am mindful
Hmm.
of what I eat. I knew, okay, it had to be that caused the bloatedness, the discomfort, the feeling of wanting to throw up. I've never been this sick. But it does happen when you have too much fiber too soon and not enough water, right?
Yes.
In that, I experienced that firsthand, and I knew instantly that's what it was. And the body just
Yes.
told me.
Yeah, because you're thinking, okay, that's you're doing that on purpose sometimes. Like you're like, okay, I'm going to try this, but you just have to you have to be mindful of the way you integrate things a lot of the time.
Yeah. Dr. Meg, I know you help millions of people, you have thousands and thousands of people around the globe with this issue. How do you incorporate, let's say, morning routines in helping your clients before we talk about your personal one?
Yes. So it's interesting. I was thinking about this question because, when I was coming on your show, and I was what I have to say here is that this is a little different for everyone because I remember years ago I was interviewing someone who was saying like, okay, my morning routine is, I do all like she was listing all of these things that she does and it's like an hour or half hour morning routine and it was like, oh, I love all of those things. But my kids, I have high school kids, and so they have to be out the door a little before 7 a.m. So when I was thinking about like, okay, that's a beautiful morning routine, but for me, that doesn't work because I have to actually get up and get kids out the door. So I'd have to wake up at 5 o'clock in order to get that, which then is, in my inhibiting, more sleep. So it's a very interesting thing that it's very, I would say when you're planning your morning routine, really think about what your schedule is and go around what works for you. So for me, I get up and I will get up. I actually wake up about 5 minutes before I need to get out of bed because I try to lay there and just do, slowly wake up and do some gratitude in the morning. So I try to think of things that I'm grateful to start the day. So just even getting those, like we were talking about the neuroplasticity, the positive thoughts, like what, some positive good things. So I practice gratitude. And then I have to then get up and make lunches and get, get breakfast and get the kids out the door. But then that's when I start, I will have a glass of water. So I do think hydrating first thing in the morning is good. Doing some, but then I add some mindful movement. So I will do some low impact exercise. Sometimes I will do a sauna. I do have a sauna. So I will do a sauna routine in the morning. And just slowly start my day. Now, people, again, eating a protein-rich breakfast can be a great part of your morning routine. So sometimes people fast though. So if you're someone who fasts, that's okay. So yeah, that might be what works for you. But when you're looking at your breakfast, can you add a little bit more protein? Can you add a little bit more fiber into your breakfast to get your day started? A lot of our breakfast foods are very carbohydrate heavy. And so that's just like the traditional breakfast food. So how can you think a little bit outside of the box? And what if, even if there's some carbohydrates, how can you add the protein? How can you add some healthy fats to that in order to have like a healthy balanced breakfast to balance your blood sugar? And then I take, my morning supplements too.
Why is that important with the protein? Because the carbs and the sugar, it really, it's fast energy, but then you crash, right? And then
Yes, exactly. So you're gonna eat, if you eat the carbs and the sugar, it's gonna turn into glucose in your blood. So and then it's gonna go in your bloodstream, and your insulin says, okay, I need to pull this in, I need to pull it in. So your insulin levels go up to pull it into the cells, and then the blood sugar drops. So fats, proteins, and carbohydrates are actually digested differently. And so if we really create that balanced plate, we can have lasting energy. So we don't want that energy, sometimes it's like that, yeah, spike and then drop. And then, especially, we're in the world of sugar coffees. That's like one of the worst things you can, kind of do because you're having this really high sugar coffee that's spiking, a lot of caffeine, a lot of sugar, we're spiking and dropping. And so we need to really stabilize that and say, okay, how can we keep a lasting level of energy throughout the day?
And then protein it does that
Hmm.
efficiently for the body. It's time release as you need it throughout the
Yes. Yeah,
day.
exactly. Time. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you for sharing that. The glass of water really resonate with us because, drinking a glass of water just really, I feel like gets rid of the brain fog because you've
Hmm.
been also sleeping for 6 to 8 hours. And so brain is what, 75% plus water. And so you kind of
Hmm.
need that water in the body, in the brain to kind of help flush it out, but also for getting rid of the fog.
Yes. Yes. And you can be more dehydrated in the morning.
Of
So,
course. Yeah, and then the
yes.
caffeine doesn't help, right? There's drinking, I mean, going to straight to the caffeine adds to the dehydration. And you're already at a deficit. You're
Yes.
starting the morning at
Hmm.
a deficit, and so gut issues is just gonna be just added on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Dr. Meg, thank you for sharing such insight. Tell us, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
Yes. Well, I also have a podcast called A Little Bit Healthier. So we're over there talking about things you can do every day to be healthier. So listeners, come over. I'd love to connect with you. I'm over on Instagram at Dr. Meg Mill, just DrMegmill. And I have my website is the same. My website is megmill.com, megmill.com. We have a lot of free guides. So I tried to give information that you download and really learn on your own. We have places to get started. I'm always doing articles. So I do answer. So reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you, hear what you have going on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been such a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please comment and tell us what was your favorite part, your favorite habit that you are going to try out for yourself today. Comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.